I'm so tired.
It's a day that ends in Y.
I am going to just rocket through this. We're tired of this. I think you guys are tired of this.
Yep.
We'd be saying the same shit again and again and again. Basically, Corpse Grinder, which I think is like a metal band
Yeah,
that the Blizz guys like.
Corpse.
Yeah. But they had a sort of anti-alliance player, Tirade, which is the sort of thing that, you know, the tirade would have been fine, but there was some, let's just say, specific language included during the tirade that would prove to be the issue. And, you know, fair enough in that. I think that's, like, at the time when I heard that, I was like, that's maybe not what we should be doing for a 12-plus game. That's a bit weird.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I guess the Blizzard people, they really like metal, so, you know, that's what they did. But, yeah, there was a drama, actually, at that BlizzCon in 2011 where... you know, the band was introduced using a sort of censored version of that clip. Yeah. Mike Morhaime apologized, saying that it was not acceptable, period, in the original version. So, you know, that's what Blizzard have thought about that since 2011. It just, you know, NPC was still in the game, so NPC gone. Then, now this is the weird thing.
Yeah.
The damsels in distress okay, so... Maximilian of Northshire is not a hero.
No.
The game is not telling you to be like Maximilian of Northshire. In fact, the entire point of this quest is taking the piss out of the whole knight in shining armor, damsels in distress. The damsels have now been renamed dwellers. Dwellers in distress, as if they, you know, dwell in a town. And that has... It's completely... It's like they've completely missed the point of the original.
Yeah.
Pretty much. The other thing, of course, is, you know, the whole running joke of, blood elf men, they have jewelry and makeup, they're women! Ha ha! They've also, you know, made a change. Made a change for that. Yeah, really, I think these are just a totally separate discussion. To be honest, I think the whole damsel in distress thing, it's like the quest is like parodying or satiring or whatever, taking the piss out of, you know, out of this character. You know, he's not shown in a light where you feel like you should be going around finding damsels. You know, it's a quest that like is inherently written not being somebody pro damsels in distress everywhere as a storytelling mechanic, I guess.
Yeah,
which is why I do a lot of people just feels a bit needless and weird.
Yeah, it's just a trope. It's from Don Quixote, like it's just that. No one's ever going to go, oh, that is aspirational. I wish to be like Maximilian of Northshire, an absolute tool that no one likes. That's my aspiration. Yeah,
there's a thing I've sort of found with some modern writing where they're very, unless like with a big cartoon villain, they're happy to have, you know, whatever. But a lot of companies or just a lot of storytelling, you know, you can write a really good character who thinks things that you don't think.
Or you would hope that you're capable of doing that.
Yeah, or like you should be able to write a character that believes things that you think are abhorrent and write that character as a really good character. Right? Like, it's that whole thing sometimes, you know, oh my god, these showrunners have included a character in their show that did these things. I can't believe those showrunners are okay with that. And it's like, well, if you actually look at the show, they're not. They're not. That's a bad character. The character's not liked. That's a villainous character. And people seem to struggle with that. Like, majorly, I've noticed in some of the storytelling I sort of see in the States, in this sort of weird modern era where it's like, hey, fucking third movie, How to Train Your Dragon 3, where they kind of go against loads of their themes, be like, we don't deserve them, get in the hole. You're like, what? Why don't your storytelling take this dour, boring turn?
Yeah. Oh, yes, I know what it was. I was going to get myself utterly crucified.
Oh, good.
I was going to say, it reminds me of when people went to see Marvel's cinematic universe's The Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. where they're like, wow, Thanos is such a great villain because he's a motivated villain and there's a motivation. We can follow him. Wait, he's the protagonist of his own story. You're like, that's what a villain fucking is.
Yeah.
The fact that people are going, this is interesting, this is new, goes there's like zero media literacy.
So
on average, it seems that way.
And that bit's fucked. And like, look, imagine if you had the those Infinity Game, that's what we'll call it. Imagine you had Infinity Game, but in Infinity War, they cut all of the bits that were Thanos doing things, and you just had him coming around and messing with the titular Avengers. And you'd be like, who is this guy? What does he want? What is he doing? What are his motivations? I'm confused. You have Sylvanas / Soval.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that only worked because you're supposed to understand why half the universe has... I mean, it's the core thing with Thanos makes no sense. It's fucking dumb. But, you know, they actually... it's logically dumb, but in terms of character motivation, he is portrayed, you know... and that's the bit they sort of forgot to do. So yes, there's that. Then to continue on, of course, we with less babes, more fans. You know, the old. I believe I was showing my motorcycle to some hot babes at the time. I believe I was showing some motorcycle to some fans of mine at the time. Hop in, baby, hop in. So you know, it's just a bit less characterful. And they've done that because, you know, like a male character being referred to as babe is, I mean, not a completely, you know, out of the picture thing in the modern day. But I think they have taken the view that this, you know, was very much an older meaning of that, where, you know, it was all, oh, ha ha ha, blood elf man. Oh, he pretty boy, he girl, haha.
Yeah.
So that's why they've changed that. There you go.
I actually have a very slight anecdote on this, actually. I was going to say it's completely reasonable for a man to be called female because someone in Tesco, because I had my mask on, so they couldn't see my beard. So they basically could only see this and my long hair and just sort of bumped into me and said, sorry, lady. And I was like, should I be annoyed at this? I feel like I should be annoyed at this. And then I listened to him and he was extremely drunk at 11 a.m. And I went, nah, that's not my problem.
One?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just, so it's not entirely out of the question and not entirely harmful either, just an accident.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's the sort of thing where, you know, it's going to be seen as like homophobic. So that's the way they're, that's the way they're going with it. You know, I think there is a way that you can pull this joke off without, you know, without having that sort of connotation, or, you know, you can have this joke exist, but, you know, in a overall body of work that includes, you know, more equal opportunities joking. Yeah. You know, I think perhaps some of the issue that Blizz will have taken with this is that a lot of the jokes were like very much just the middle-aged boys laughing at, you know, the people other than themselves, right? Where, you know, if you're doing this kind of, again, you probably would want to include jokes like this, but you'd also want to include jokes that, you know, would also be, you know, at the expense of maybe the people who wrote this joke or something like that. Now, you could also say that this orc character is maybe not he's presented as like, you know, oh, he's so cool and awesome with all these fans and babes, but he's a total tool.
Yeah,
he's a right plonker. So, you know, maybe you're supposed to then think that like this is sort of like a satire of a certain way of thinking about things, and that is what the point of the joke was, and that therefore that actually makes sense within that joke. And then you sort of get into this weird thing where, you know, it's all like dissecting jokes, and, you know, they'll mean different things to different people. But then what happens is, you know, if you kind of, if the joke is like sort of taken in the more, you know, okay and fine version of it, right? And then let's, like, you know, the worst reading, and then it's removed because the worst reading of it, then people are going to be like, well, come on, what are you doing? So, you know, overall, I would say, like, look, I'm generally in the South Park camp of things.
Yeah, same.
Equally take the piss out of everyone and be fucking brutal while you do it. That's just always been how I've thought. I don't really like this kind of new, weird, like, soft comedy that offends nobody. It's not funny.
Yeah.
It's not funny at all. Yeah, I don't know.
It just it removes so much depth from what you're allowed to write about in comedy, and it's just I mean, obviously I'm no comedian, obviously, but it's just funny. Having that range just means people can cope better. I think I've always been fond of the take that, you know, laughter is medicine, and sometimes laughing about something that isn't very funny can help it sort of be framed as a little bit nicer instead of taking it deathly seriously all the time.
Yeah. I think there's just very different overall perspectives on this sort of thing in different parts of the world and like different circles. You know, I think you put this to most people, say here, and I think they'll be completely fine with it. You put this to most people on twitter.com and you will see a different skewing. And, you know, it's just that thing of different groups, of different opinions. And, you know, who do you end up sort of listening to more? And Aaron Scamp very funnily says, don't tell Blizzard about the Puff Puff event in FF14.
Just wait until Michael scrolls down.
Yeah, very good. Oh, cool. Yeah, well, I saw, you know, Preach got his Puff Puff.
Ah, nice.
Good man. Happy for him, you know.
Yeah. I kind of, I kind of regret explaining the Puff Puff last week because now people kind of know what it is.
Well placed, Dakor.
Yep.
Well placed.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Just do a bit of ERP in the side, you know, no biggie, all good.
Yeah, it's like there are obviously some connotations, but who's being harmed?
Yeah,
no one. You know, could it ideally have versions that are for more people? Yes, ideally, in an ideal world, but it doesn't. So, sorry, but that's kind of how it is. Also, it's a big joke based on a running cultural theme to a franchise that's extremely important culturally in Japan. So, if you disagree, you're culturally insensitive in a way. But
yeah, it's just the sort of thing I just have to wonder if there's a bunch of like logically being offended on behalf going on here, where, you know, maybe it's just kind of assuming that some of the people who logically maybe could be more offended by this because it could target them more, maybe don't have a sense of humor or something. But you know, it is how it is. I mean, and also it's America, man. They just seem to have, you know, they seem to have different types of disunity sort of going on and more cultural strife going on than, you know, I mean, here in Northern Ireland, it was the Catholics and Protestants for a while, and it still kind of is, but really all the young people are just jaded about that and don't give a shit and are just pissed off that the property market sucks and that their landlords just don't fucking keep their houses being reasonable, such that whenever me and Matt walk down the street, it seems like half the place is falling down. So it just seems like, you know, maybe this is just more of a reflection of like the specific, I don't know, whatever cultural trauma or something is maybe just happening a bit more in the States now than it sort of has been in the past. Yep, I don't say this is a super targeted way. It's like different countries have their, you know, their big bing bing wahoos happen at different times. And, you know, maybe it's just this is kind of being caught up in that cultural context or something. But yeah, hey, meanwhile, Puff Puff in FF14. Yeah, you know, go find Mike, do some ERP with him, have a great time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, for all of you unaware, ERP stands for Extreme Raid Progression. And don't ever forget that.
That's it. I love a bit of, some extreme raid progression with the boys.
Yeah.
Just exactly. Can't wait till our FF static gets formed.
Yep.
You speedy fucker.